It's an interesting day in football when a starting quarterback in the SEC allegedly and reportedly, so I'm going to say allegedly, is out there demanding more money, that being Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee. I feel like just a year ago in an offseason, I was having people on my show during the day. We did some SEC stuff. And I came out here and said that the report that came out about Nico Iamaleava was that you had a booster from Tennessee that flew to California to see Nico, got him in a private jet, flew him back to Tennessee. This was all while he was in high school, by the way. They came up to a deal where he would do things for NIL, or allegedly he would do things for his name, image, and likeness. And then he would go to Tennessee for that deal. And so signing day came and went, and Nico Iamaleava signed with the University of Tennessee, even though the NCAA went after Tennessee and say, hey, I don't think that name, image, and likeness is a part of going and getting a private jet and flying it from California to Tennessee and getting a kid and doing a deal with him. That's not necessarily what name, image, and likeness is supposed to be. So then Tennessee sues the outright dog manure out of the NCAA. And by the way, they won because the NCAA has no real legal ground because they don't have a collective bargaining agreement. So Tennessee wins the case and the NCAA backs off. And as soon as that case is over, you see a fall and a spring that's absolutely chaotic. Right after that, 4 defensive linemen went into the transfer portal, and Demonic Williams went to Oklahoma, which did start the chain event, I guess you could say, was Nico Iamaleava. But Demonic Williams allegedly and reportedly goes to the University of Oklahoma last year when he signs, allegedly, a $1 million deal. So then you go through all of the chaos that go, by the way, not the only one. C.J. West went to Indiana. I forget who went to Miami. Texas got Ethan Burke. It was absolutely just really crazy when it came to how that went down. You transfer, you go through the season. Season's chaotic as hell in the first 12-team playoff. And as soon as we get out of the season, some crazy things happen for sure with recruiting and the portal and everything like that. But then you get back to April. You get back to spring football. And all of a sudden, Nico Iamaleava's name is back in the media, this time for, I'm sure, something that maybe he did not want to slip out and what he wanted to be behind closed doors. Today, Nico Iamaleava, per Pete Nakos of On3, is in active contract negotiations ahead of the 2025 season. It is unclear if the negotiations will impact whether he enters the transfer portal or not. Nevertheless, we are live, by the way, and we are here. Nico Iamaleava has all the leverage at this current moment. He knows he has all the leverage because, guys, what does Tennessee do if he goes in the portal? What do they do? Then that mean that they would have to tamper, or they're going to have to do something very special at quarterback because he might be their best option. Don't get it twisted that Nico Iamaleava has all of the leverage here, because I don't think that Tennessee wants to have a down season. I think that they want to replicate what they did a year ago by going to the 12-team playoff. Even though he has the leverage, we talked about this in season when we were doing some SEC clips that we'll start picking back up. We kind of gave that a shot last offseason. We'll do that again come football season. You do that, okay? You go through a season with Nico Iamaleava, and he's not great. Guys, he has some really bad games. Now, his wide receiver core did lead the SEC in drops, and for that, you got to give it to him. Maybe he was a little skittish to throw because of the simple nature that his wide receivers couldn't get open, number one, and when he did deliver them the football, they couldn't catch it. I'm not 1,000% sure that it was all their fault. Nico did not help them at all, regardless of the point. You get into the Ohio State game, and the young man runs the football the way that he did, and somewhat in the first half, kept it close-ish against Ohio State, and you saw some of the talent that he has at running the football. You see the upside with a kid like Nico Iamaleava. But, man, it does rub me the wrong way that a kid in spring, when he knows the portal is approaching, portal's here pretty much in the spring period, and you want to renegotiate. See, Nico sent waves through college football when his court case went through and he won. Nico is now setting a precedent yet again this offseason by allegedly going through negotiations with his team because he knows that they don't really have any other choice but to negotiate with him. Again, allegedly. Guys, this kid single-handedly, whether you like it or not, it seems to me that the way that, and I'll get to what I think in a minute, but he is changing it whether you like it or not. Other kids will follow his path. They will follow his path. Because you know what? If I'm a big-time player, why wouldn't I renegotiate in the spring? Why wouldn't I put your feet to the fire? If I put your feet to the fire and I'm a big-time player in a big-time position, you don't really have a choice but to negotiate with me, especially at quarterback. Now, I am not 1,000% sold that Nico Iamaleava garnered the $2 million that he allegedly and reportedly got when he came into Tennessee. But do you remember a year ago? A year ago, I literally came out here and was screaming from the rafters that if you want college football to have some form of guideline, the Tennessee case, the conference commissioners, the people behind it, and college football fans should have all rallied behind the NCAA for one time, or any governing body in college athletics, whether it be the conferences or whether it be the NCAA. Now, you don't like the NCAA. I don't like the NCAA. No one likes the NCAA. But the truth is that kid would send wavelengths into college football that would set a new precedent. He's doing it again. The entire college football world should have been behind the NCAA and say to themselves, hey, listen, a booster flying a private jet to California, to Tennessee, to get a kid is not NIL. It isn't. At that given moment, the conference commissioners should have struck. Greg Sankey didn't say a damn word. He was silent during the entire thing because he couldn't come down on Tennessee because Tennessee is a part of his conference. But he's also out there trying to regulate NIL and make the game better. I don't know if Greg Sankey had the leadership that he says that he has or that we allegedly give him to go out there and say, listen, all right, this case is going to the court system. If this goes through and the NCAA wins this case, we can stop from boosters going and just doing whatever they wanted. We could have had a legal document in place. Didn't happen. This kid's setting another precedent. Now, all of this is alleged. Blake, this has nothing to do with LSU. Nothing to do with LSU. But then again, it does. Because the negotiations that other players will go through now because of this precedent is going to be something that will send another wavelength. It will send another wavelength through college football based off of what he did. This is insane. I don't think it's great for the game that this kid keeps doing what he's doing. And there was another report that did come out that it said that he loves Josh Heupel and he loves the University of Tennessee. I don't think Pete Nakos runs that story without Shannon Terry, without the people around him. I don't think that story gets broken by On3 if they're not 1,000% sure that they're in contract negotiations. This sport giveth, this sport taketh away. But I'm just going to tell you this. This house settlement case is about to go through, hopefully within the next week. When that goes through, I cherish the day that we can have some form of regulation. I love NIL. I love that players get paid. The question for me has never been, should players in college get paid? I've always stood behind the players about getting paid. And I still do. This is not what any of us signed up for. None of us. I think that they should have gotten that TV revenue money. We've talked about all of this. We've talked about all of it. Saying, hey, we don't agree with this now. I don't know if he's a leader. Blank Face on YouTube says, it's ridiculous no one at the top had any balls to put some simple guidelines in place. Of course, it was going to get out of hand. Blank. To the person, I'm using your name. To the commenter here. Brother, we have multiple shows. Please, if you want me to send you the links of me coming out here and saying that Nico Iamaleava is setting a new precedent, this is going to be bad for the sport. We need a rally behind the NCAA behind this. Y'all, brother, we have them. Nobody had the leadership to want to stand up for it. I called it out on here. I called it out on Ruffino and Joe show. And I was telling these conference commissioners to back the NCAA for once. Sorry, it's got to be Tennessee, Greg Sankey. I apologize. But you keep every SEC media days, Greg Sankey runs out to the podium, which is his right. And I overall think he's been a good commissioner, really damn good commissioner. He runs his ass up to the podium and he says, we're on the preface of doing something fantastic and getting these regulations and, getting players paid. Okay, you had the ultimate chance. You blew it. Everybody blew it. It's not just on him. You could have used this as a special case and said, listen, let's get a federal mandate that a collective bargaining agreement is here. They could have done it. You know how I know? Because Judge Claudia Wilkin, a federal judge, literally told the NCAA that the one thing that they forgot to bring to her in this house settlement case that would change college athletics and put guidelines in place, the first thing out of her mouth was, I am surprised that y'all didn't come to me with a combined collective bargaining agreement so that we could get this all settled. And that every university in athletics has to go based off this collective bargaining agreement. And they blew it. They flat out blew it. If you want me to go back through the shows, you want to see the old ones, telling you about it. I promise you. I screamed from the bleachers. Get behind them. Blake, you're overreacting. It doesn't matter. Now it matters. And I'm warning you again. Here's the warning. The warning again is that Nico Iamaleava did it again. He did it again. He's setting a new precedent that will hurt your team. Because kids see that and be like, you know what? That shit ain't a bad, that ain't a bad idea, Nico.